Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, one sec, let me turn my fan off because it always interferes with the sound. Anyway, sorry, I've done that. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaelaris, and today I will be playing the Terran Neuro. This is less of an analysis of this game and more of a rant by me, so I do apologise. The Nero, when the match was loading up, he had a immortal portrait, so I assumed, oh yeah, a protoss player or whatever. And once we got into the game and things like that, he was Terran, and I was like, oh, you must have switched to Terran recently or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I'm finding Terran pretty hard to counter right now. So yeah, this is going to be more of a rant by me. About why I believe that Terrans are overpowered. I know, people will come back to me and say, well, they're not overpowered if you don't let them get overpowered. It's because you don't do anything to react to what they're building and things like that. But there are a few issues that I have with Terran that I don't personally like. Well, sorry, but before I do start though, if you do hear some cracking in the background, like some really harsh snapping, we've just given the dog a bone, so it's nobody falling down the stairs, nobody breaking the legs or anything like that, so don't worry. Although it does make me cringe, because it reminds me of like people snapping their teeth, and it's horrible. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, we should not give them. Anyway, Nero here throwing down his gas and his barracks. He already has his supply depot down, and Neuro here just saying that ZVT is impossible for Z, and I have watched a lot of videos, and even that Hydra versus, I think it was Drewby game, that even Drewby was saying how unfair that the matchup was, and he was finding it quite funny, even though Hydra did prevail in the end, and that was an intense game. I think Hydra had like 11 bases at that point. If you haven't seen that match, by the way, do go watch it, it's pretty fantastic. That drone there getting very lucky and blocking my cybernetics core going down at that point. But yeah, why do I think Terran are overpowered? I'm not particularly bothered if you don't think Terran are overpowered. You're entitled to that opinion, and I don't mind too much. But the first point that I do want to raise is the fact that once a Terran's turtled in and has the siege tanks available and things like that at the disposal, it's very hard to break that line. I mean harder than any other defensive position to break, because the siege tanks do a massive amount of damage to anything that is, especially in narrow chokes like this one. It's really hard to get in and kind of do what you need to do at that point in time. The siege tanks make it pretty much impossible, and if you do end up charging into a line like if you do end up charging into the front of a Terran, and you are going to get mashed pretty much playing as Z or P, Z or P indeed. And that brings me onto another point, which is if you can't get in the front door, what do? Well, you come around the edges. You use these edges here that they're not protecting or whatever. But in the higher level of play, all Terran players are fully aware of this. They know that they want you to come up that choke. They want you to come up that ramp so that you can get barraged by their siege tanks. So the natural response would be to come over these cliffs and just, take them from there. With either warp prisms, I suppose you could use, or you could use colossi. There's overlord drops and things like that. But good Terrans will put down a sensor tower. Good Terrans will scout your base, know what you are doing, because they can use ComSat, which is pretty much free scanning. Okay, bar a few minerals you lost using the mule or whatever. But they'll put a sensor tower here. They will know when you are coming, and even when they know you are coming, they will have missile turrets up, and missile turrets do ridiculous damage to anything flying. So that's another thing you've got to watch out for. Neuro here going for the Destiny Cloudfist 111 build. And I was just going for a 4-gate at this point, getting my warp gates out, using as many chrono boosts as possible. I have these 2 assimilators up. Actually, I was bringing a robotics facility up in order to get an observer out into his base, and just in case he did any kind of starport Banshee cloak interaction, but I don't believe he does. He's scouting his base here, and making sure there's nothing in the perimeter. Is very nice of Nero at this point. So yeah, going back to the whole Terran overpowered thing. I dislike extremely when playing Protoss, the fact that when you are confronted by a good Terran and he is bringing a Marauder and Marine Ball into your base, including perhaps Medivacs, which is entirely likely pretty early game, the tactic for Protoss is to sentry force field the bottom of the ramp and wait. Just wait until you can take up to tier 3 in order to counter Terran tier 1. Now to me that sounds a bit... I can understand why that is the efficient counter to it, and I can understand why people do that, but it sort of, in my mind, countering tier 1 with tier 3, somewhere in that sentence, it doesn't make sense in my mind. I understand that, of course, tier 3 will be powerful against tier 1, but that being the only method, or the only efficient method of beating a tier 1 push seems kind of dodgy to me. There was something else I was going to say as well. I can't remember for the life of me. I can't remember. Oh, he's just killed my observer there. I brought it perilously close to that missile turret and it goes down. That was very, very stupid of me. But as I say, I did want to cast this video because this was a Protoss player, and I'm not denying that he was a good player. He obviously isn't as experienced with Terran as other Terran players that you meet at this level, as he'd only just switched. But I did meet this player later on, and he was playing Protoss, and he gave me a thoroughly good thrashing. So you know, he's not a bad player. He's a good player. But this is happening more and more, and you see it with the higher level players like Sheth and Daimaga, all complaining about the fact that Terran is pretty much impossible for Zerg, and I'm not so sure that they touch that much on Protoss, because there are viable counters, which is, you know, taking up to Colossi and things like that, and using Phoenix to pick up the siege tanks, blah blah blah. But all these players complained about Terran being overpowered, and I know we're only a month into the game, a month or two into the game, and scouting the high ground there to take out that pylon, very efficient with these medivacs, but I do have a bigger force here at this point. He didn't really get his build order entirely right, I don't think. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying something. You see all these high level players complaining about Terran, and how they can pretty much, you know, just attack move with Marine Marauder balls and win against people with fantastic micro and things like that because of stim pack and concussive shells. Concussive shells are especially annoying against these zealots. I suppose zealot charge is the only viable counter to that, and I do actually have zealot charge in this game, and I wanted to outline the fact that zealot charge is fantastic against Terran. So everyone gets zealot charge against Terran. It's great. But yeah, I normally do not whine about. I wouldn't call this whine. I would call it, you know, pointing some factors out about Terran that I believe aren't exactly fair, which is just a long-worded sentence for whining in inverted commas. But with the amount of pro players that do see this as a genuine problem, I don't see how Blizzard can't do anything about it. I imagine they will do something about it very soon and very shortly, but it just depends what. In my opinion, I wouldn't mind seeing siege tanks being nerfed. The damage that they can do and how smart they are in their AI is pretty ridiculous. Also, this Marine Marauder thing is sort of ridiculous in my opinion. Husky, if anybody watched that Husky video, Husky's Marauder video, they demolished all the tier 1 Protoss units, and I imagine they do very similar against Zerg anyway. So this is the final push here. My force is extremely large at this point, and yeah, I'm throwing Guardian Shield up, selling in those zealots with the charge ability. They do fantastic against this brawl, and all these Stalkers taking out these Medivacs. Probably should have brought some High Templar in actually to feed back those. Bit of inspiration from the last game. Neuro does GG, but yep. Neuro, but I was only using this video as an example and a bit of a rant fest to see, because so many people are switching to Terran, and everybody I always see in Diamond League is fucking, pardon my French, is Terran. So, yep. So thank you very much for listening, guys. I hope this wasn't too much of a downer. I'll be releasing another video very shortly, which is a bit more light-hearted. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.